We are still hanging with our author, Mr. Monty SEKHUKHUNI. Mr. Monty, please greet our listeners.
Thank you, Mr. Matume. Morning, Pan-African radio listeners.
Dear listeners, remember this program is brought to you by Beyond the Bruises. This is the book written by Ramakgolo. You can catch us on www.panafricaconnect.com. You can also catch us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Yeah. Welcome, Mr. SEKHUKHUNI.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Last week you spoke about what happened in prison, but I want us to first paint a picture for the youth, especially those who were born after 1994. When we talk about apartheid South Africa, they don't understand what we are talking about. Would you please paint a picture for them?
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, as you know, that apartheid was legislated in 1948. Before that, there's been colonialism, which was another form of apartheid. So during 1948, when it was legislated, it provided for segregation of all racial groups in the country, where white people were given privileges or over privileges from any other citizen. They were appeared as more citizens than the rest. So Africans, black people, colors, and Indians were treated as subhuman. We'd go in a situation where we won't use the same bathrooms, not queue in the same queue at banks, use different coaches when we are transporting through rail, created areas for black townships, for colors townships, for Indian townships, and the white people live in a place that we call suburbs. This also culminated from the 1913 Group Areas Act. So during that time, the white person was like a semi-god who has done nothing wrong in the faces of any humanity. White people were, even if when they were, let me give a particular example as well. Even if during Mandela's days in prison, white, those that are political prisoners as well, they were given long trousers, and blacks and Africans were wearing short trousers. So that tells you the separation effect of apartheid. And you would never argue with a white person. Whatever they say, it's right, it flies. Even if they tell you 10 right from 10 left, you have to go to actually please them. So they were like appearing as superhuman beings. So they were protected by the law and the system then. We couldn't go to the same schools with them. We couldn't interact with white people. We couldn't marry white people. Interracial relationships were prohibited. It was just something that was about, there are these white people, because of the color of their skin, better than the rest of us. But all of us, of course, were told that we are created through the image of God, and actually we are the same. That's why some of us stood against this evil system of apartheid.
It means they were never wrong at any stage. Whether when you have an argument, they always win.
Yes, look, our grandparents, our parents used to carry passes to enter certain areas in the Republic. If you're stationed in Soweto, if you go to Johannesburg CBD, you have to carry a pass. And there was a curfew, they were restricted to say, after this particular time, you can't in this particular area. It's only preserved for white people. You'd go into beaches, some beaches were made for white people only. You'd go to cinemas, the cinemas were made for white people only. So everything that was perceived good was only made for white people.
So how did you mingle? I mean, for example, at workplaces and so on.
Well, during my time, of course, I was still a student as well. I was not working, but reading from what our parents went through, our grandparents went through, even if at work, there were segregated bathrooms. They would work in a situation where they didn't work at management level. We were just at the low level of society. It doesn't matter how educated you were. You'd actually be reporting to a white person. They would come in institutions without qualification, without experience, but they have to manage our parents, they have to manage our great-parents. And they will earn more. White people, even if in some institutions today, doing the same job as you and I, but they're still earning more. As you can see today, we haven't really transformed the country. The industries, the economy is still in the hands of white people. And maybe that's how they socialize. Sharing power is not part of their system.
Sure, even salaries. Now I want you to paint a picture of your dream of Pan-Africanism.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a Pan-Africanist movement. Although some think that it's not. I mean, some of us grew up in the African National Congress. We were members of the Congress of South African Students of the Student Congress. So Pan-Africanism basically is about the unity of African people, both in the continent and in diaspora, to ensure that we combat and confront white supremacy in all its manifestations, so that we create a society where every human being is equal in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of the Lord, in the eyes of society. That's what our Pan-Africanism wants to create, so that we live in humanity as human beings, irrespective of our pigmentation of our skin.
You even went to prison for that. But do you think it's easily attainable? As you are saying, even today, some white people still earn more, even if they do less job than black people.
Yeah, the only way to attain a transformed and progressive Africa is through the unity of Africans. If I'm not wrong, I think it's Kwame Nkrumah who said colonizers will come as investors. So we will attain your independence from colonists, they will free you. But when they come back again, the mascot will come back as investors. And that's what is actually happening. So it's quite important that you understand this type of foreign direct investment when it comes. It does not come to develop us. It comes here to extract and steal our resources and actually make these countries poor. We know what is happening, what has been happening in the French-speaking African countries, where the economy is building France. Our economy in South Africa, in the former Commonwealth colonies, it contributed to the growth and the development of the Britain United Kingdom. So therefore, our unity to focus on addressing our political, social, and economic issues depends on us. We need to ensure that we deactivate conflict. We subscribe to a system that a country prefers. I don't want to use the word democracy because it has been clouded with giving people basic rights, the right to vote, the right to freedom of speech, but it does not come with the fundamental change in society. So every country in Africa should be able to decide how they want to chart the way forward in developing their own countries. Africa is not poor. Africa is rich with minerals. The cell phones that we are using today, those minerals come from an African country, and that country remains poor. So it's important that we make sure that all our leaders, by leaders not being only political leaders, ourselves also as leaders. Because I come from a school that says that leadership is not a position, but it's about influence. To ensure that we change the mindset of our society, change the mindset of our politics, ensuring that we focus on a developmental agenda where Africans will benefit and grow from their own countries, as opposed to be dependent. We know that those who have been fortunate, the brain drain issue, we've got qualified people in a variety of faculties or disciplines in academia, but they leave the continent and go and build European and American countries as well. So we need those resources to be here and ensure that actually we develop the country and move forward. I mean, we're seeing very good news that are coming from Nigeria. The NAGOT campaign, I mean, it's doing well. Those are things that we need to do ourselves as Africans and stop stealing, looting from the public purse. If we can fight corruption, I'm not saying we can erase it completely. It's even happening in the most developed countries. But if we can fight corruption and make sure that those are the resources of the country, they're not stealing them. they're actually making them to develop and grow our country, or our countries in the continent. And there should be a peaceful Africa, as the African Union says that we need to silence the guns.
It sounds like we know what is needed, but how hard is it to just attain what we want?
Well, there is a perception, I'm not sure whether anybody has studied it, but this perception is becoming true. That we've got leaders that are not actually with the interest of their people. We've got leaders that they serve the masters elsewhere. And this perception is becoming true, it's becoming reality. Because, I mean, we can't have a situation where you are a president of the country, you are a leader of a nation, but your interests are elsewhere. What stops us from creating our own industries? Why Africa is not being industrialized? I mean, all of us, we know that for a country to prosper, we must industrialize. We couldn't be making so much loans today if for the past 30 years we've actually industrialized, in particular South Africa, ensure that we build the economy for ourselves and for our people. Because of we've been told that South Africa has been seen as a gateway to the continent or to the world. So therefore, the growth of South African economy as the leading in Nigeria and Egypt is actually able to assist us to ensure that we build countries so that we don't have this issue of uncontrollable migration or immigrations into the country. So in economics, which is not my strong spot, the basic data I know is that people follow opportunities. Opportunities don't follow people. So whether opportunities, people will actually flock there. We see even if with internal migration, people leave the rural areas to go into urban centers, into big cities, to look for opportunities. So we know what we need to do. But those that are charged with leading us, shaping the future for countries, they know these things. They must just do the correct thing. Ensure that they serve their people. It's not about a private development or making themselves rich only. All of us want to grow. As I said last week, poor people will always be there. We will never be rich or billionaires, all of us. That's the fact of life.
You are listening to PAC Radio, Unity on Cultural History.
Well, dear listeners, find us on www.panafricaconnect.com. And remember, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. Let's look into your book. On page 37, you say you describe Johannesburg prison as the University of Life. And in my understanding, the word prison and university may not be found in one sentence. What do you mean by this?
Yeah, basically, I'm intrigued by your question. Of course, prison or University of Life, sometimes people view it in a negative sense. That must go, people are going through pains. But we constructed that term in the sense that because of University of Life, that's where we learned, that's where we were a community of activism. I will tell you there are comrades there who went into prison without any level of education. They went out there having some certificates. Some even got their what you call matric certificates, grade 12 qualification in prison. Some completed their university, so they were studying their university qualifications in prison. I went there, I think I was doing standard 8, yes, standard 8, grade 10.
When you got arrested?
When I got arrested. And I was given an opportunity to also continue my studies there through private long distance learning. Besides that, we're a community that taught ourselves about how to resolve societal issues. From all the disciplines that you find in academia, we were taught those things there. We understood the issues of psychology, sociology, developmental economics, the political economy of governments, the difference between types of states, Hence I said last time, and any ideology and isms we've actually came across in prison. I understood how government functions in prison. I learned about leadership, the quality and characters of leadership in prison. School education did not provide that. You are there to ensure that you are placed in a stream, whether it's commercial, whether it's sciences, and then there was this one that I can't remember what it's called, general, we got Beeps and history club together. But there was no correlation between all these particular subjects. And hence probably the outcomes, the then outcomes were not developmental to ensure that it produces young people who actually contribute to the economy. Because of the system was gearing us towards being either you become a teacher, you become a doctor, you become a nurse, you become a police person. Sciences were doing them just for you to understand, but we knew in prison that for us to survive, we need to teach ourselves about scientific teachings. All scientific teachings in society. That's where the concept of University of Life comes in. Because of we learn also, we're not shy away to understand the difference between capitalism, socialism, and communism. And what type of states are those, the different types of states. We've learned how does Cuba contribute to the well-being of the world, being an island, serving, being suppressed by the Americans to today. Those restrictions that they've put into the Cuban economy. We've learned the difference of there were those, of course, who were more into military sciences. They taught us about the difference of weapons. Why the Russians produce an AK-47 and then the Americans are producing an M60. What's the different type of weapons? What power do they have? So that's the lessons that we've learned in prison. So we prepared for society. So as we call it University of Life, because of none of us came out there with we can produce a paper that we've graduated. But all of these are actually embedded and built in us as activists there. So the term of University of Life comes to there, where we are a community, where we shared everything. No one will go hungry, even if prisoners provided food for us. But I'm saying no one will go hungry, no one will go unattended, no one will feel that if nobody near visitors to say, no one will feel that it's left out. If there were no clothes that we have, we'll buy and share clothes amongst ourselves. I mean, as I say, we're not equal there. We're leaders in our own right, but we're the leaders that were in these organizations, the UDF, as I mentioned, the NECC, the Social Civic Association. So that's what I'm talking about University of Life. That shaped us to who we are, to understand society, to also understand that we're in the struggle not for our own selves, but to liberate our people. And as we also say that we're not liberators, the people that they're their own liberators. Ours was the responsibility to shape and direct where the struggle should actually be, the direction of the struggle. That's what we're taught in prison. So I don't have a qualification about that, but they taught me. And that's why as I left prison, I started to understand of leadership, even if in my early years of working, I was in the consultancy that provides leadership and management training for school governors. Today, I sit here as a strategist because of now I have 5 qualifications on those particular fields.
And you got them there in prison?
No, I did not get them in prison. I'm just saying now as I speak. Prison influenced me to a career where I want.
Channeled your career.
Yes, it channeled my career. I mean, we've studied political science in prison.
How hopeful were you when you were studying? Because you were prisoners and you did not know that one day you will be released. More especially in your case, you were arrested, you were never tried, but there you were.
You know, the struggle about apartheid has always been hopeful. That we'll achieve our freedom one day.
No matter what.
No matter what. Just to quote, I don't know whether Ramakgolo was joking or he meant this thing when he said, I'm hopeful about a free South Africa. I don't use words like optimism, because of optimism is the language of the people in the stock exchange. You know, so we're hopeful, even if those of amongst us were not in prison, because our struggle was organized. I speak this without fear of contradiction. Organization was the center of liberating South Africa. By organization, I'm not meaning only the ANC, the PAC, the Communist Party, ASAP, all these liberation big organizations. I'm talking about small organizations like the Soweto Student Congress, Soweto Youth Congress, Alexander Youth Congress, Val Youth Congress. We framed our struggle in such a way that because of we believe in the Freedom Charter. And the preamble of the Freedom Charter speaks about we the people. We? Yes, we the people. And it's now translated into the country's constitution. It also opened the very same saying. But my point I'm driving at is the Freedom Charter is a document that guided our political philosophy through the liberation movement, which in this case is the African National Congress. It guided us because of the first clause says the people shall govern. That was a very hopeful statement. And the ANC defined itself at some stage as the parliament of the people. In recent times, it defined itself, what is the word? I can't remember, but it defined itself as okay, I'll remember the words, but I don't talk much about it. But the point is that these 10 clauses in the Freedom Charter, every organization use those clauses, 1 or 2 or 3 of them, to rally the people to organize themselves. Like we in the education sector, we use clause number 8 that says the doors of learning and culture shall be open to all. And that clause gave us hope. And that clause alone, without the narratives there, it made us to create programs for education campaign, to demand education that will produce young people who are critical thinkers, not people who just regurgitate what is provided in the textbook. People who will ask everything, who will question whatever that we're doing in society, so that we're able to come together and shape our process. Those were in the human settlement urban space. They use a clause in the Freedom Charter. So that guided us. So the United Democratic Front brought all of us through our various sectors. And hence the hope was there. And we could see when you organized a meeting. The walls will be full, the classroom will be full. People even if listens outside to get the message of hope from the leadership, from the organizations of the people. So hope has always been there. Even if in prison, we knew that one day we'll be free. And being free meant that we're willing to risk our lives, to sacrifice our life, to pay the supreme price, and die for the freedom of South Africans. So we've got strong and good leadership who are determined to liberate South Africa. Organizations in exile will tell us, will get briefings from comrades of where the liberation movement thinks. As you know, that the ANC every year will do a January 8th statement. That statement guided us on an annual plan and annual action in the country. So this year we're focusing on these issues. Come next year we'll do the same. Whilst we don't stop, because everything is interconnected, it's rolling. You can't say because of you've dealt with a class exam boycott to address issues that paying exam fees is also be dead. Why are you paying exam fees? And then next day you say no, the problems it's resolved. It has never been resolved. So we'll continue with both tactical and strategical issues to liberate ourselves. So hope has always been there. But the sad part is that I don't think I can speak confidently about hope today.
That's the subject for some time to come. Organized as you were, I understand that you also had differences. How did you resolve your differences?
You know, human beings are affectional by nature. I choose to be your friend. I choose not to be a friend to Abdullah. That's fiction. At work, you choose to associate with specific colleagues and not others. In management teams, the same applies.
The same.
So Our differences at the main were more on tactical issues.
Mm.
And because of our political consciousness and understanding that we are fighting for the liberation of black people in general, which Africans and Indians. And
Okay, while you're
colours.
still there, sorry to come in. Explain, what do you mean? Africans in general?
Okay, what I mean, black people in general and Africans in particular.
Okay.
We're in Africa, we're all Africans.
All right.
And we know that the evolution of South African as a society with main four, now we can say 5 races, or let me say 4, and don't get into the Chinese debate. We've got Asians
Mm-hmm.
who were brought here to work in the sugar cane industry in the case of there. We've got colored people, whatever they debate, but my view is that they originate from the Korean-descent people.
Mm-hmm.
We've got those of us who say that we're Africans by origin, in here, including the Korean descent. Then we've got white people. So hence I'm saying those 4 areas, those 4 racial groups. So by black people in general, because of the term black, apartheid and colorism define us to us only, people who look like me and you.
Okay.
And then you have colored people, which the liberation movement defined black as Indian, coloreds, and Africans.
Okay.
That's the definition of black in general. Then now, the thrust of our struggle that united us, which we said we are fighting for the liberation of black people in general. Whoever you see yourself black, brown, gray, you are a black person.
Mm-hmm.
And then Africans in particular. The Africans in particular, what we emphasize is because of throughout our societal development, apartheid and colonialism, we've been at the below of the food chain.
Okay.
Till today, as you see, majority of people who are in poverty are Africans. Or if you like, I now use the term called black Africans. So it's us who are suffering till today.
Yeah.
It's us who are not at the center of the economy. It's us who are not part of the mainstream of society. We travel more distance to go to work. We use 2-3 taxis. Those are facts of life. If you look at this thing, you think that I might be having an actual perspective, but this is a reality. It's not about the isms, the capitalist or socialist. It's about this is our reality. We build townships far from economic centers. So the spatial transformation of South Africa also is something that needs to be addressed. So once you address spatial inequalities, spatial injustices, we are also resolving the economic and poverty issues. That's my perspective. So that's the definition that you use, and I think it still stands today. It's still relevant. Because white people are still running the industries, Indians are more better off than us, colors the same way. Us, we are like what somebody said, the Irish coffee thing. You know, it's white on top with sprinkles of brown things. Those are the few millionaires that we have in the country who are Africans. And we can't live in a society like that. The country won't grow.
Okay, I'm sorry I interjected when you were explaining how you resolved your differences.
Yes, our difference was resolved, as I said, politically. We always remind each other, SEKHUKHUNI, yes, you feel strongly about, let's say, rent boycott. You feel strongly about students not attending class in a particular day to go and march against injustices in the classroom. But remember that we need students the very same day and time that we're wasting to take students out of classes. They need it so that tomorrow, when they leave school, they should be better leaders with better qualification. So this is a tactic, too much. But our difference will be resolved by saying, remember that education is key in whatever thing that we do. We must produce activists who are rounded and grounded on education. Take an example. You can research how Cuba developed its society. You had young people in Cuba who were leading the Cuban the communist, the youth section of the Communist Party of Cuba. People who led that organization were doctors at 23 years. That inspired us as South Africans, as activists. That's the type of system that we want. That people who lead us, at least should have a form of education. Because it's through education that we understand how to resolve certain things of society. Although we accept that the liberation struggle taught those things there, but in today's society, you need those qualifications so that you can be able to lead our people. I think Mandela at some stage once said it when he was addressing one of the royal houses in the Eastern Cape, that it's time that also king and chiefs must go to school. They cannot lead people by virtue of being in the royal family without getting the necessary education. So education has always been key in our struggle for liberation.
Do you think we pay attention to that today?
I think we do. We might debate about the outcomes of education, the level, the standards that we have set for education. But we do. The fact of the matter, although there are things that we need to resolve and build on them, I think since democracy we've built only 2 universities. But I'm glad that black people and Africans in particular, they are swelling the ranks of academia. The universities today cannot carry the graduates that come out of matric, of our schooling system. But before you know that out of our generation, 200 or so numbers will go into universities. But today we're talking about thousands entering that space. And I'm glad to tell you now that if my observation with the current youth people, I think they emphasize education. They're educated people. They are leading their organizations in the sense of education. Yesterday I was in a book launch of one of our colleagues. There was one guy, a member or a leader of the Congress of South African Students currently. And he mentioned there that yes, he has moved on, he has left high school education. He's now he's now in university doing a hybrid education. With a reflection that the current generation takes education serious. We can live, we can sort out the challenge that we have about outcomes as we move going forward. We're not able with the set outcomes. There are those who interpret them so that they make sense. But I believe strongly that yes, today's young people are very knowledgeable and actually emphasizing education in their own right.
At least we have direction.
Yeah. That's why they're still fighting against financial and academic exclusion. It's not their struggle. It's not started by them, but it's been there over time. So that shows that there's hunger for knowledge and education amongst our youth.
You are listening to PAC Radio, Unity on Cultural Exchange.
We are still hanging with Mr. Monty SEKHUKHUNI. Remember, this program is brought to you by Beyond the Bruises, written by Ramakgolo. Mr. SEKHUKHUNI, I want us to look again, let's talk about torture. Last week you spoke about the 2 types of torture. You said that in prison you were tortured psychologically and physically, and you dealt much with physical torture. How were you tortured psychologically?
Look, let me put this in 2 ways, or 2 in 1. You have Protea police station where we were detained, where I was kept for 14 days on a solitary confinement. That's where torture happened. In prison, there was not much torture. There were just these random calls in by them to continue the interrogation, ask a few questions. So the main torture happened at the police station. The psychological one, basically, it's for them to deny you sleep as one of psychological torture. These guys will call you at 8 o'clock and then release you the next morning from the interrogation room at about 6 o'clock. that means that you will never sleep. But remember, we all sleep at night, or we are perceived to be sleeping at night. And then during the day, it's your time to relax and reflect and find yourself. So I didn't have that opportunity to reflect on what happened a night before or in the early hours of the morning. So I was forced to find a way of sleeping. And you couldn't sleep because of one, during that time, you are weak, they bring whatever food, you must have food. There are also conversations with other comrades through the windows. So you need to also follow those conversations, so they empower us. And then that's when we know that SEKHUKHUNI has been arrested. So there's new 4 people who came in last night. So that's how we track each other. So the psychological one, the main for me, was that I must not have adequate sleep. You know that as human beings, you need 8 hours for work or for school, 8 hours for leisure, and 8 hours for sleep. So that's how that's how life, in my view, is structured. So that denying me that access to sleep, to me, was a clear torture. So I could not reflect, I couldn't have a balanced view, and possibly prepare for a potential beating, for another interrogation. Because even if you're in detention, you're always on your toes. You know, anything can happen. Sometimes they'll call you during the day and just keep you there in the interrogation room for 2-3 hours, and then they send you back. You know, so that's the psychological torture that I'm talking about. So that you are not mentally stable. You know, even if when they ask you the same question differently, they think that they hope that they will be able to get through of what they want.
And you say sometimes they brought money. I want to quote here, you say, even money could not entice me to betray a moral, ethical, and priceless cause. Yeah, can you expatiate on that?
Now, these guys, they open a safe with a full of money. 10 rands, 20 rands. You can see nicely fresh printed money. If you want to live a better life, a good life, live this nonsense that you're doing, here's money for you. You can change your life. You can even give you a new name if you want. Come work with us people. You can even live the phrase, people. A white person say, come work with us people. We'll give you a better life. Your family will be better. That was some kind of enticement. They drove me at one stage, I think somewhere in the book or in one of the manuscripts, when they drove me in some of these white suburbs and showed me, you know, we come from Soweto, we live in matchbox houses. You see a house for the first time, it's along the big yard, swimming pool, tennis court, and so it's the type of life you live if you live this thing. And I said, I'm not going to do so. I will remain with my principles that apartheid must be unbundled, must be destroyed in all its manifestations. We need a country where no man must oppress another man. We need a country where we must coexist as black and white people harmoniously, as human beings.
Without mentioning names, were there some of your comrades who were enticed by this?
Yeah, there were, I think the guy who pinpointed me was never in prison. He was arrested, remember? And then a lot of his friends, which were in the same school in any way, were in prison. The most touching thing that happened about money, as I said, when they process you at Sun City, they said you can't go there with money and everything. But there were some who brought money, I don't know how it went in, and they had to declare it in front of us. And these were some of my schoolmates. I won't lie to you, I was fuming, I was furious, I was very angry. But the leadership said, we'll deal with this particular matter. Don't worry, because I saw similar money that I saw in the safe at Project Police Station, and this guy comes with the very same type of money. What goes into your mind? But I whispered on him, but this one has not been fine, we'll handle it. Relax, we know this thing, there might be the intention why this thing happened. So, it did happen, but to be honest with you, politics always rose above everything. The main cause of us rose above. Remember, The intention of struggle was to unite all South Africans, including those that were selling out. Our duty was to transform them to be part of the liberation cause. So that was how we also resolved our difference in the earlier question. And this is how this matter was resolved. Say, SEKHUKHUNI, this thing's not about you. It doesn't matter. Yes, you say you saw it, but we didn't see it. And you're not sure of this. But remember, we are here, all of us, in the enemy's wound. And you need to come out here, all of us alive. And being alive, it means that we must be united. We'll work with them, we'll train them, we'll educate them politically so that they come out better person. And indeed, most of them did come out as better person. Some of them, as I speak, who came there not being activists, they're activists today. They belong to political organization. So money has never been an issue to me. So my grandmother taught us that don't accept, there's no free lunch in this world.
And I saw it where you say, Gogo taught me at an early age. How old were you then?
I think I was more or less 12, 13. Because for not Pandey, as we speak, you know, and I didn't grow up in a very wealthy family. I grew up with a grandmother. And you know, a grandmother, you can imagine the pension then, if you are saving pension. So we're boys, we have to make ends meet, go to school, make sure that we play dice there in the corner. We gamble with playing football, one part, if you know that thing. Playing marbles, just for us to generate income, to buy socks, school shoes, buy lunch, and so forth, so that we keep the family going on. That's why I said that nobody, you must just know that if somebody gives you something for free, expect something to be back.
Suspect.
Yes.
Be suspicious of anything that comes free. Okay.
You are listening to PAC Radio, Unity, Harmony, and Cultural Exchange.
All right, tell us about your journey as to be an author. When did you decide to write this good book?
Yeah, I think I decided 6 years ago. There was a very turning point in my life, which I would say it actually affected me and my family. I work in government, and for whatever reason, I was suspended, of course, with concocted charges.
Okay.
I was charged, and then I had to stay home, I think for 2 or 3 months doing nothing. So I was suspended with pay. And during that period, I said, I'm not going to mourn and bemoan this episode. Let me find a good thing outside it. Let me pen something. Let me write something. Should I write about this immediate experience or something else? But I felt this one might have serious challenges because of eventually I went back to work without even appearing on the disciplinary committee. You know, maybe this thing of being suspended, detained without trial follows me. It happened at work, you know. And I started to write. Then I said, let me write about my life as a student activist, as the person who joined the struggle at the age of 12, 13 years old. But I felt that too, the prison life when we were detained, nobody knows much about it. The only prison story that we taught about is about Mandela and so forth. And other people like Mama Fino, the Almas prison trial and so forth. But ours is not coming out. And I also realized that there's very little that has been said about the 1980s generation. And the emphasis is on 1976 generation. And we forget about the 86, there's a 96 generation. Generations will always be there for young people. Youth are in transit. You know. Then I wrote a book which also at some stage involved the life of my wife, because she's also an activist in her own right. But when I've decided to say what book which end do I want to take? Do I take a memo approach, or do I speak about a specific item? I also wanted to write about the history of the Student Congress, but I end up choosing. But let me write about our detention life story, how we were detained during apartheid, how old were you, because of there's very little that's been said in the space. And fortunately, my second point author, Ramakgolo, pushed me to finalize the book. I prolonged. I remember giving to her, I don't know whether she read it, but I said, I'm writing this thing. And one day she said, but you said you are writing, where's this thing that you are writing? That's when I decided, hey, let me move, and now move towards publishing. So that's what ignited me, because of an idle mind's the devil's workshop. I couldn't be sitting for 3 months doing nothing or wondering, would I lose my job or what? So let me make best of this opportunity of giving me free time, being paid, sitting at home. So let me use that time to write this book. This book emerged, there's other few manuscripts that come from this book, SEKHUKHUNI, which I'm busy with them, of course, now. So that's how I realized that I'm an author, but throughout my life, when I learned that I've been an author over time, there's this thing called ghostwriting. I used to write speeches for politicians.
Okay.
So then I felt, oh, okay.
Yeah, you can do this.
So then I can do this thing. So let me do it.
So, okay, before, let me, I have interest in your job. Did you get your job back?
Yes, I was back at work. I was moved from the department where I was employed at, taken to another one. I value the input of the then accounting officer, who placed me into a place and said, go there and work and then forget these things. Then later I was headhunted to move into another department. That's where I am now. So yes, I'm back at work and I do my work. And of course, we can't politicize administration, public administration. I think we need to do away with that thing. Because of after assessing and reading, leading towards my suspension, clear is that because of I have a particular view, but I do my work professionally. I don't talk politics. The constitution guarantees me, all of us to belong and form political parties for that matter. So why, because of a different party comes in and then I'm treated differently because I don't like my views. You don't like where I come from. But at work, the T-shirt, if I wear a Orlando Pirates T-shirt after work, that's my business.
Yeah.
That's my business. At work, I'm there 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 to 5. I produce, I deliver. That's me, that's my attitude. Because of I know how to separate the space that I'm at. You know, that's what also President taught us. Read the environment, read the room, know the type of audience that we're dealing with. So yes, I'm glad that I'm back there, and I'm still working. Of course, I'll continue to serve South Africans in whatever form. That won't stop.
So, what were your challenges after writing? You took it to the publisher. Was it easy? What were your challenges?
Well, it was not easy because of I knew nothing about this industry, and to me it was a trial and error. Did the internet search and so forth. I found those that can assist to publish and so forth. Then I sent to one organization that deals with that supports independent publishers. They edited it. Fortunately, I've got some editing skills because of I was trained at the postgraduate level about editing. Yeah, I did communications as well. And then the issue, of course, is self-publisher. It's money. You've got your books now. You must find a way of distributing them. But I also learned about the environment. But it's almost like a sea infested with sharks only, where each shark eats every shark. This industry is publishing industry. That's what I'm learning about it. That's the difficulty that we have. But as an activist, I will rise above this thing. Hence, I'm participating in a lot of book writing, book publishing events. In recent times, of course, I was at the AAA event. And at AAA, it's authors are artist event, which also highlighted and brought in my mind to say, we can do it together in united form. It goes back to the emphasis of organizations are there to resolve specific issues or issues in society. Even if ourselves as former COSAS members through the Each One Teach One Foundation. I'm part of a team that encourages and promotes authoring and writing, and people to write their stories. We must hold the pen. Our fingers must be on the keyboards. Our stories must be told by us, not by other people. So that's where I am, and I think I'm beginning to learn this creative artist environment.
Are you, as authors, are you taken care of? I don't know, maybe from the government side, or who's taking care of authors?
Now, I understand that the Department of Arts and Culture has a program to support authors. They've got a program, I forgot the name. Every year they take a cohort to be trained, and they assist with publishing, writing. The entire value chain of producing a book, they're there behind you. I'm also told by some that the Department of Military Veterans also has that program to support military veterans to write their stories. I think they can do more. I think we need to approach it. It's us through these organizations like Each One Teach One Foundation, the AAA, to engage government and ensure that they treat us like any other artist and provide support, because we are producing knowledge, we are producing books for our own society. In any way, you know that you write a book, over 100 books, you must actually do a legal deposit. 5 books goes to government, basically, before you even start to sell a book.
Mr. SEKHUKHUNI, thank you for sharing your story with us. If you were not told, I want to tell you today that you are a hero. We really thank you for sharing your story with us. Dear listeners, this is the end of our program. Until we meet next week.